Is your council planning to adopt the new licensing powers to give local people a greater say over clubs opening in their neighbourhoods and to allow for greater regulation of the lap dancing club industry? And if so, when?
Thank you. Stephen?
Well, thanks for the question. I have to say, representing an outer London borough, that we don't quite have the same level of lap dancing establishments that perhaps some of the Westminsters and Camden, particularly in London, would have.
It's not just a problem actually in London at all. I live in Bexley Borough, which is suburbia, and it's a really big problem there as well. So yeah.
Okay.
I think you've asked specifically about what the council's doing in their local areas.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I would certainly want to look a bit more closely about what we as a council can do. Certainly there is, I can tell you that amongst resident populations there isn't any appetite for sex establishments popping up around their neighbourhoods. So certainly from a council, I suspect you'll hear from all of us actually that none of us want to see more exploitative establishments of this type popping up on high streets or anywhere else. And anything we can do through these new powers to control these kind of establishments, I'm sure we'll all want to do. I think there's huge amounts of abuse and trafficking and all sorts of things which go on in the so-called sex industry, which make it a pretty abhorrent place to be. And I think as a society we ought to be stronger on it than we have been. I don't know the detail of how the new laws are going to work yet, I'm afraid, but I'll certainly look into that after this afternoon.
Thank you. Nelga?
Before the recognition of lap dancing clubs as sex establishments, as the cabinet member in Haringey, I lobbied the government working through the LGA, Local Government Association. Last year I sat on the Tourism and Culture Board, which was specifically looking into licensing issues. And through that board, we have lobbied the government, and I also sit on Labour Party National Policy Forum, and through that policy forum as well, I have been lobbying personally that legislation to change and enabling the local residents to be able to have a better say in terms of such applications. And as a result, I am really pleased that the government listened, and we now have this change coming through. And at the moment, what it is asking local authorities is that to come up with policies, to develop policies, and also in that policy inserting some clauses which gives due consideration to the location of that sex establishment, whether it is near to where vulnerable people are, whether the schools, or it is linked or associated to crime or disorder. So we have started the process in Haringey at the moment, and I'm hoping in May, as soon as after the election, the full council will agree that policy. And it is a step towards giving a better say to local communities. But I'm afraid to say that I don't agree with the government on this issue. It will not resolve the issue fully, because still, in some cases, it doesn't mean that you can object to a licensing application. But what it did was, it enabled us, the council, the councillors and the local communities to work together and campaign effectively. And we have defeated several applications in Haringey so far with that political determination, and I'm hoping it will continue. And during my lobbying, I also raised the issue of sex workers, their rights, how they need to be looked after. They have certain rights, certain beneficiaries, and so unfortunately didn't include any of that after that during the amendment was put forward.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. Well, we don't have any lap dancing clubs in Barnet. Neither do we want any. Unless Maria wants to start one. We had one threatening to come into East Barnet, and we threw absolutely everything at them to stop them. There is no doubt in my mind lap dancing clubs are a gross exploitation of women, and they should not be allowed. Certainly I wouldn't want them in Barnet. If other boroughs want them, then it's a matter for them. But it should be a matter for them, and that's the point I'm coming to, because our party is absolutely committed to making sure that local authorities have got licensing laws, and that lap dancing clubs would have to be licensed. And I think that's very important, because otherwise we can't stop it. There is nothing we can do. And our residents, certainly in East Barnet, made it absolutely clear they did not want a lap dancing club. And neither, as long as Conservatives were in power in Barnet, we will not have any lap dancing clubs. Okay.
Thank you. Claire, do you want to come back in response?
Well, yeah, in response, I'm really pleased with the sentiment, especially from Lynn and Nilgan, and especially the acknowledgement that the damage that having lap dancing establishments in the sex industry, or so-called sex industry, to quote Stephen, in general actually contributes to. So that I'm really pleased with that. A little bit concerned that Stephen doesn't know about the laws, but maybe we can have a chat afterwards and I can fill him in.